Have you done law enforcement honestly in this county?
No comment, sir.
Is it safe to say that what happened in 2013, the city in effect went soft on chronic nuisance owners?
Yes, I think so. And I think that it was a mistake.
What's the problem with Miami Township?
I'm not ready right now. Can we do this tomorrow?
Inside this door lie parts and pieces to parking meters. Meters the city of Cincinnati hasn't used for nearly a decade. The fact that we're here on this property right now, feet away from these pieces of evidence, does that concern you?
It would be a prosecutor's nightmare.
Who's guarding that evidence right now?
I'm not going to comment on who's guarding the evidence. I won't answer that. I'm not going to explain my security measures to you.
That's how most of our 4-hour-long meeting with Pike County Sheriff Charles Reeder went earlier this week. Are you guys falsifying records in this county?
No, sir, we're not. So you guys can say what you want, but thank you for your time.
Well, we found something buried in the back of this contract that Mike Allen says is nothing more than an old-fashioned quota system.
That's not the way the contract reads.
Let me read it to
We
you.
can have 15 cameras out here and it's still 100 hours a month.
It says here, each unit shall be in place and operating a minimum of 100 hours per month.
Then you ask the lawyer.
You were basically giving credit for training, certifications for courses that you never participated in.
That's correct.
I thought if I replace Connie, it's going to be a blonde, 24, big.
This video shows Grand County officials discussed getting rid of the county's HR clerk 4 months before she was terminated. She was replaced days later by a woman 30 years younger.
As I was fired because of my age and looks.
Do you believe that you were fired to be replaced with a younger woman?
Yes, I do. He plainly states that.
I told jokes I shouldn't have told. It's not me you saw on the tape. That was an idiot trying to make people laugh.
Judge Executive Steve Wood told us the video isn't as it seems. Those are your words, and for Connie McClure to be replaced days after she left here with a much younger woman, how does this not stack up to age?
Did you want to meet the girl I hired?
Sure, we'll meet her.
You've already met her.
Okay.
It's Angela. She's not blonde.
She's considerably younger, though.
Well, yeah, she is. She's younger.
Those weren't the only problems we found with the certifications. We found a merit erector certification for a Marty Moore, submitted in March 2015. Marty Moore wasn't anywhere near UC then. He was lying in a Dayton cemetery, buried there 15 months earlier. When you take a look at this welding certification from April of 2012, it has your name at the bottom. Is there any way possible this form is true and accurate?
Absolutely not. It's a total lie.
Why?
Why? I didn't sign it. I didn't work there in 2012.
We spent a week asking for interviews with the man with the answers, Water Board President Don Fox. We never got a response. We found him at a public meeting last month. How you doing, Mr. Fox?
Very well.
Hey, I'm Jody with Fox 19.
Nothing to say.
The Water Board President would not explain what happened, so we went to this meeting last month to ask the entire board. What have you all done as a board to ensure that the $1 million spent on this building, that this project was completed? Anything, Mr. President?
No comment.
Do you not believe you owe the people of this village an explanation?
All that's been taken care of.
We made several attempts to interview Mayor Doug Hedrick. We emailed asking for an interview. Hedrick, saying he did not trust the media, declined our request. We tried finding him at 2 separate council meetings. He never showed for either. We made a house call. Hedrick never got back to us. Last night, we found him outside a Lawrenceburg social club. Hey, I'm Jody Barr with Fox 19.
How you doing?
Like to talk to you.
I told you.
Well, we'd like to talk to you about this grant you got. We asked Blackwell if he knew who the city's top false alarm violators are. He did not. Blackwell's tune changed when we told him the problem CPS has caused his officers with 3,500 false alarms since 2011. 3,500 alarms is getting pretty close to a third of your false alarm burden. If CPS wasn't on this list, that drastically changes the landscape of this problem.
You're right. I didn't realize that they were that high on the list. That's a high number.
So you're saying those invoices that are contained in the city's files that showed you paid yourself as a consultant $1,200 a week, were those made up?
Those were made to support my time after the project was dead.
after I showed what we found to the Pike County Sheriff, that sheriff is promising to do something about it. This is where investigators are holding most of the evidence in the Pike County murders. That evidence was hauled here from the massive crime scene 20 miles away. You see a fence, you see a building, but the trouble lies in what you don't see. No guards, no locks.
Any evidence that they would pull out of that thing would be virtually useless.
And why do you say that?
Well, because you can walk straight through the gate there, and you're over that fence. An old man like me could get over that thing in 20 seconds.
Mike Allen is the former Hamilton County prosecutor turned defense attorney. We took him out to the warehouse, a warehouse that holds the actual crime scenes, 3 mobile homes and a camper. And the lot outside holds hundreds of other pieces of evidence rounded up from the Roden family massacre. The sheriff and Attorney General Mike DeWine decided to move the entire crime scenes to this warehouse.
You know, we did it to protect the crime scene.
Is it hard to get all the evidence together and make sure that it's secured? Of course it's hard, but this ain't good enough.
For the last 6 weeks, we made 20 trips to Pike County watching this warehouse. Never once did we see an officer, and night after night, no lock on the gate. The fact that we're here on this property right now, feet away from these pieces of evidence, does that concern you?
It would be a prosecutor's nightmare.
And not only were there no guards, the main entrance to the entire property was often left unlocked, open for anyone to just walk right through. An access road runs alongside the warehouse. The gate securing that road is locked, but with just a piece of wire.
If I were a criminal defense attorney representing someone charged in this case, I'd be all over this like white on rice that anything taken out of that lot has zero evidentiary value.
This warehouse is also home to at least 2 private companies. We watched those employees walk into work just feet away from the evidence and no officer on scene. Investigators would not allow us inside the warehouse to see how the 4 trailers were protected. We did get a look one morning. You can see employees sitting by a door, and right behind them, that gray trailer is one of the Roden crime scenes. Mike Allen says the solution would have been easy. Post an armed officer at the warehouse 24/7.
And how hard would it be? Yes, there would be an expense, but it's certainly a justified expense to have a uniformed police officer out here watching it. I think that's what you have to do to secure the scene. But again, in many ways, I think the genie's already out of the bottle. If they're able to identify and charge and indict who committed this horrible crime, yeah, the whole thing could be jeopardized because of this. And it's just, it's senseless as to why.
The evidence was unguarded.
Investigative reporter Jody Barr is live in Pike County, where the sheriff admits mistakes could have been made. Jody?
Well, Tricia and Rob, not only that, Pike County Sheriff Charles Reeder told me he's going to perform safety audits after we showed him what we found out here at this warehouse. Now, we watched this warehouse for nearly 70 hours. Oftentimes, we were right here in this open parking lot in an unmarked car in the middle of the night, and no one knew we were here. "125 times. That's how many times in the past 6 weeks we drove by and through the parking lot of this warehouse. Inside, it's where 4 Roden massacre crime scenes are, with some of the evidence in the largest mass murder investigation in Ohio's history." Who's guarding that evidence right now?
I'm not going to comment on who's guarding the evidence. I won't answer that. I'm not going to explain my security measures to you.
That's how most of our 4-hour-long meeting with Pike County Sheriff Charles Reeder went earlier this week. To be clear, we would not report specific details on security measures. We simply wanted to know if the Sheriff's Office is doing its job to ensure the chain of custody of the evidence.
How do you know that I don't have a deputy there? I'm not discussing my security measurements with you. Do I have deputies there? Absolutely. Am I there? Yes.
Every day?
Every day I'm there.
24/7, there's somebody there.
No,
not
I'm
you,
not
but
saying. I'm not going to answer that. I've told you that.
We filed an open records request with the sheriff to see what tax dollars he's spending to secure the evidence at this warehouse. The sheriff says there is a camera system on the inside where those 4 trailers sit. This warehouse is also home to 2 chemical companies with multiple employees there during the week. But the sheriff would not say who's watching that evidence when civilians are inside. That's until we showed the sheriff what we had. Here's an empty guard shack. That's on a Sunday.
Right.
This gate, the one way in and out of this facility, unlocked an entire weekend and multiple nights through the week. This is that gate on a Monday morning after another entire weekend. It had gone unlocked. No one's there. The question is, though, if anyone was in and around that warehouse at any point in time during the day, you would know about it.
Absolutely.
On that property.
Yes. I or someone else with my staff should know about it, yes.
We told the sheriff we'd spent nearly 70 hours watching this warehouse. We never saw a cop there. No one came out. In the middle of the night, the same car night after night in a parking lot, one would think would raise some suspicion of the law enforcement in this county when you're holding the evidence to one of the largest murder investigations in the state's history.
Absolutely.
Why?
That you're trying to get me to share my security measures with.
But that gate's wide open. You can't dispute that.
I can't dispute that. Not in what you showed me, but I can dispute that.
The sheriff eventually acknowledged this warehouse is unmanned by law enforcement.
I will not tell you that they're there 24 hours a day. I will not argue the fact that they're not there 24 hours a day. I will tell you that they are there.
After watching this warehouse, we decided to check for ourselves. We walked into the chemical company's offices to ask to see an investigator. Is there anyone with the sheriff's office or the AG's office in right now?
No, there's nobody here right now. They're not here hardly at all anymore.
Really?
Sometimes they'll stop in once in a great while, but they haven't been here for a while.
It would be a prosecutor's nightmare.
Former Hamilton County Prosecutor Mike Allen saw the warehouse for himself. He believes with what he saw here, the state might have a tough time getting evidence into court.
It's going to be tough for a prosecutor to be able to justify that the chain of custody in that evidence was not broken, simply because you got civilians walking around in there with no police officer watching them.
Allen makes the point with the stealth used to murder the 8 members of the Roden family, the same could be used to get access to the evidence.
Like I said, an old guy like me could get over that thing in 15, 20 seconds and pull anything out of there that they wanted to, or perhaps plant something in there. It's just not secured.
He believes your office may have potentially jeopardized any evidence that may come in this case.
I will disagree with that completely.
Well, Rob, there were some subtle changes here today we watched the Pike County Sheriff make, such as no trespassing signs along the fence outlining this warehouse here. But this right here, this gate was one of the more obvious. At 4 o'clock this morning when we came by this warehouse, we spotted the Pike County Sheriff parked right here, replacing a thin piece of wire that once locked this gate with an actual lock. Long before dawn this morning, Sheriff Charles Reeder was at the Roden Evidence Warehouse working to secure the outside of it. Reeder was in his sheriff's patrol truck, hanging no trespassing signs and putting up these green stakes around the sides of the gate. Minutes later, for the first time in our 6-week-long surveillance of this warehouse, an armed deputy was posted outside. It was the sheriff himself.
I will check out the perimeter and reevaluate the outside of this facility, all right? You've brought that to my attention. I'll evaluate that.
The sheriff kept his word. During our 70-hour-long stakeout of this warehouse over a 6-week period, we never saw an armed officer guarding the evidence here. Inside, there are 4 crime scenes from the April massacre of nearly an entire family. Here's a shot of one of those trailers inside, and this picture from the Cincinnati Enquirer shows the other 3. Outside are their cars, trucks, ATVs, and several pieces of equipment. The sheriff moved it all to this warehouse and tagged it all as evidence. The problem, the main gate that leads into this warehouse and to this evidence is rarely ever locked.
It's not secured. I mean, let's just say there was some piece of evidence that was found in there it would be virtually worthless in a court of law because any defense attorney with any kind of brainwaves running through their head could easily defeat that.
Mike Allen's the former Hamilton County prosecutor. He believes the sheriff's failing to post an armed guard 24/7 to watch this evidence has put any prosecution of this case at risk.
It's simply not secured. Therefore, anything taken out of there would be virtually useless.
Yesterday, there was a new lock and chain on this gate. This morning, the sheriff was parked in front of it for a while. But a few hours later, it was open again, and no sign of a deputy anywhere around it.
We will be proposing dramatic new fines and dedicated resources to address this problem.
That was Mayor John Cranley's State of the City address 4 months ago. Cranley was a council member in 2006 when the city decided to get tough on nuisance landlords, those with renters causing tens of thousands of police calls for problems like loitering, noise ordinance violations, and disorderly conduct. When Cranley left council 3 years later, council still had not funded the Chronic Nuisance Enforcement Department. That never happened until 2012. What took 6 years for the city to say, you know what, we need to fund this and essentially put some teeth to what we passed in 2006?
Well, most of the time that you're referring to, I was not in office, so I don't know the answer as to why it wasn't funded until 2012.
In 2012, the city hired Mark Manning as an assistant solicitor. He tracks nuisance calls for individual addresses each month, then makes the call on what, if any, legal action the city will take. He's the only person the city's hired to enforce the law.
Candidly, we haven't put enough resources into it in terms of the prosecution.
And the numbers show it. Although the city's total nuisance calls fell over the 2-year enforcement period, our Fox 19 investigation found some of the top troublemaking properties are still making trouble. For example, this building has the most nuisance calls for a single address in the city, 500 calls in the last 2 years. It sits just feet away from Cranley's City Hall office.
What your research is demonstrating is that we have significant room for improvement on the law itself. We need to retool the law so that it will be more effective.
Cranley plans to create a housing court to deal specifically with nuisance landlords and to hire more staff in the enforcement department. In 2013, council amended the nuisance law after Dharma Ramanini's downtown property management sued the city, saying the law was too strict and unconstitutional. In a court settlement, the city agreed to allow larger complexes more nuisance calls before issuing fines, excluding trespassing calls, and the city agreed to not fine landlords for nuisance calls that come from management. With the changes, the number of calls the city shows now are likely much higher. Is it safe to say that what happened in 2013, the city in effect went soft on chronic nuisance owners?
Yes, I think so. And I think that it was a mistake, and I'd like to fix it.
If you've ever parked in the Fountain Square garage, you've likely walked right past this door, never realized what lies on the other side. We got access to this room from a whistleblower who tells us the city was supposed to have sold these parts a decade ago. That whistleblower wants the public to see this. We asked City Budget Committee Chairman Charlie Wimburn to come see it too.
Oh, this is outrageous.
It didn't take Wimburn long to realize what he had.
I think here's another reason why our budget has been out of balance, because look at all the government waste that's in this room.
We found parking meter mechanisms dated more than 30 years ago. Each crate holds 6 mechanisms. By our count, there are more than 3,200 in here. They sell for $25 a piece on eBay. You're holding something in your hand
that has value, and the taxpayers have paid for this.
Our whistleblower tells us there appear to be enough parts in this room to make 3,200 complete parking meters. We found complete units selling on eBay for $99 each. That's $316,800 stashed in this room. That does not include these.
What are these?
These are brand new, some still in the original sealed box, digital meter circuit boards. The Duncan Meter Company sold these for $100 each in 2004. There are more than 1,700 in here. In 2004, that was a $173,000 value. Altogether, based on the eBay pricing, there's around $500,000 lying in this room. Would it be disappointing to you to know that a decade ago the city had a deal on the table? Someone was going to come in and buy this property. A decade later, for that to have not occurred?
I don't know. Again, if it's a 10-year ago scenario, I wasn't here, so I don't really know all of the details and the circumstances surrounding that particular situation.
After we told the city what we found, Harry Black ordered the man over parking services to figure out what's in here and how best to get rid of it. Black defended city staffers responsible for this, saying the city just does not have the policies in place to deal with useless equipment.
To give my department head some level of credit, that doesn't exist today. That hasn't existed in Cincinnati.
For a department head to not have proactively taken that step, have they failed taxpayers and failed the city by allowing something like this to happen?
I would probably say no, only because there's no standard citywide policy and procedure. You know, for them to even know that this is an expectation.
After this, Black says those policies will be published soon.
Well, it's been around.
And Charlie Wimburn,
and it shouldn't be here,
says there's no excuse for this.
Since it's been brought to my attention, I am now responsible. The buck stops with me, and I plan to find out why is this going on here. And if there's some people that need to turn in their resignations, then we want that too.
Well, that's exactly what we wanted to know from the commissioner who sat on the board that agreed to move this tower out of Miami Township. Now, the problem, there are several areas in this township where police have no signal to connect to 911. That means these officers are left out here on their own if something goes wrong. July 20th, a Miami Township officer stops a speeder. It's a routine traffic stop. But when the officer keys up to run the tag, the radio has no signal. He can't talk to dispatchers.
They're not getting any coverage from signal where they're at.
And has no idea who the car belongs to, if the owner's wanted, or much of anything else. An avenue of last resort, the officer uses his personal cell phone to radio in the stop.
Hey Dalton, it's Peelage, Mary 12.
Hey, how are you?
Fine. Can you put me out on a traffic stop?
Situations like this are happening on a near daily basis in Miami Township. How did that strike you when you saw that video?
That was very concerning, very frustrated, and I could see the frustration on the officer, and you're dealing with someone in a traffic stop that you have no idea who they are.
Miami Township Police Chief Sue Madsen's been on the county since May 11th to fix the radio troubles for her officers. She's met almost weekly, pushing for a fix. When you leave this department at night, in the back of your mind, do you worry knowing that some areas of this township are still uncovered?
I worry in the respect that we knew it was an issue on May 11th when we changed over the radio system, and we brought it to the attention of the county.
May the 11th, that's the day Claremont County took its 911 system down off this tower and moved it outside of Miami Township 4.5 miles away toward Goshen. That new tower is 100 feet shorter and it's on lower ground. For Miami Township, that's not getting the job done. The move left the township with what the chief calls spotty coverage. We took the issue straight to County Commissioner Ed Humphrey. Humphrey was part of the decision to change the 911 setup in Claremont County. Hey, Mr. Humphrey.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jody Barr, Fox 19.
Hey, Jody. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. We want to ask you about the situation going on with the 911 tower. What's the problem with Miami Township?
I'm not ready right now. Can we do this tomorrow?
Before this interview, we'd ask Humphrey for an interview so he can explain to taxpayers why 4 months later Miami Township's 911 trouble continues. Humphrey told us he wasn't going to interview and that the township's radio problems had gotten much better. The question is, this has been going on since May. What has the county done to remedy this and a problem where you've got officers on stops having to use a cell phone to call dispatch?
It's a very rare occurrence, and we've worked on that.
Township police tell us it's not that rare. The department sends the county dispatch center a notice every time an officer has radio trouble. Those notices, the chief says, go out almost daily. The changes, the commissioner argued, made the 911 system better across the county.
So countywide, we did really well. Unfortunately, we didn't do so well for Miami Township.
We want it to be at where it was prior to May 11th or better.
What will you say to those officers who are on the street in Miami Township who tonight will press a radio button and will not have access to dispatch, who are then going to have to place a call on their personal cell phones to dispatch?
I think we're going to always have a few places where it doesn't work.
Is this something you believe that Miami Township may just have to live with?
I don't know. We're going to work hard to see that they don't.
A county official resigns amid a Fox 19 investigation. What we know about that resignation coming up. Well, all we know for sure tonight is that County EMA Director Chris C. resigned 2 weeks ago. We wanted to know why, so we filed an open records request with the county. The county has refused to turn Chris C.'s personnel file over, keeping the reason he quit a secret. Last month, we aired a series of reports into allegations that former EMA Director Chris C. faked fire and medical training records in Switzerland County. We interviewed multiple people who claimed C. provided them with answers to state fire exams and even faked CPR training. C's still the fire chief of the Jeff Craig Fire Department. Cody Miller says C. pencil whipped his first fire certification. Do you feel as though when you held that false certification, you were robbing the people of Switzerland County?
Yeah. They weren't getting what they expected from a fire department.
Miller left C's department, then later became truly certified when he joined a new department. We went to C in July to ask him about the claims. Are you guys falsifying records in this county?
No, sir, we're not. So you guys can say what you want, but thank you for your time.
Thanks, man. The day after our initial investigation aired, the state of Indiana's Homeland Security Division opened an investigation. Since then, investigators have interviewed dozens of people, many who've interviewed with us. Well, again, the county's attorney has refused to release Chris C.'s personnel file, so we can't say whether his resignation has anything to do with our investigation, but we can tell you Chris C. has an interview with a Department of Homeland Security investigator tomorrow morning in Indianapolis. We reached out to Chris C. by phone and email. He wrote us back today saying not to contact him again. We also reached out to all three Switzerland County commissioners. None of those men has contacted us as of this report. In Switzerland County, Jody Barr, Fox 19 Now investigates.